Let's bring in the Leader of the Opposition in Victoria, Michael O'Brien, who joins me now from Melbourne. Thank you for your time, Michael O'Brien. This draft legislation, the extension of Victoria's state of emergency, the government said they wanted it for 12 months. What's the arguments now that you've had a look at the legislation?
Well, good evening, Peter. Look, there are no arguments to give this Premier, this government, a blank cheque to continue controlling Victorians' lives for another 12 months. This is a Premier who doesn't even want Parliament to sit. It's a Premier who refuses to be democratically accountable. Andrews wants all the power and none of the accountability. I make it very, very clear that this is an absolute travesty, this open-ended 12-month ask, and the Liberals and Nationals can't support that, and no sensible MP should.
I listened to you carefully today, and I made the point in my editorial as well. Why doesn't he just seek a month-by-month exemption and go back to the Parliament each time and make his arguments in the full transparency and scrutiny of the People's House?
Well, great question, Peter, and one that we're yet to get the answer to. There's a reason why, when this law was originally framed, it was limited to 6 months only, and that is because this is the most stringent intrusion on the lives of Victorians. People are locked in their houses under a curfew. People have to wear masks when they're outside. They can't see friends. They can't see family. Their businesses, their jobs have been lost. There's a reason why the Parliament didn't trust any government to have these sorts of powers for a long period of time. And now Daniel Andrews says he wants to just change the law and give himself another 12 months. I think if there's any argument to be made for extending the current state for any period of time, let's leave it to month by month. But the onus must be on Andrews and the government to make the case to the Parliament, make the case to Victorians why every extra month is justified. Because the consequences of this lockdown, as you know, Peter, are massive. The economic consequences, the emotional consequences for people, this is like nothing Victorians have ever seen. And I'm not going to give any blank cheque to Daniel Andrews.
I just spoke to the head of the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, represents businesses right across the state. He is dismayed that there doesn't seem to be enough clarity about what it looks like on the September 13 date when stage 4 was supposed to end. They don't know whether it will end, whether we'll go to stage 3, what the plan is. Are you aware of a plan? Have you had a briefing on a plan?
Well, no, it's been months since I've had any conversation with Daniel Andrews, Peter. I think that's the most disappointing thing. When Andrews came out with this idea, dropped it in a press conference a couple of days ago, I think that Victorians were really expecting the government to say, here's our plan out of lockdown. Here's our plan to give you your lives back. And instead, they got a plan to keep us locked down for 12 months. And it was completely contrary to what I think Victorians were expecting, were hoping for. And my inbox has never been more flood. I've been 14 years in Parliament and I've never seen a greater reaction from the public. People are angry, people are frustrated, people are upset. They don't understand why this bloke wants to keep us locked down instead of getting us back to where we need to be.
Well, you're a former Treasurer. You also worked at one time for Peta Credlin, so I know you're numerate. You're across the numbers of the economic impact of things. Look at Victoria now, 25% of the nation's economic muscle, 40% of the growth in Australia, the economic growth last year. How on earth does Victoria recover?
Well, we are in for a lot of pain ahead, Peter. A lot of our economy is built on services. International tourism, international students, they're all under the pump. Clearly, we've had a lot of economic growth through migration. That's going to be under the pump for quite some time to come. So the trouble is we've got a government at the moment in Victoria run us into massive deficit, run us into massive debt, don't have any economic plan. We need a plan to get this state back to work, back in business. You can only do that with a Liberal government because we're the only ones who actually understand how to grow the economy. We're the ones who will work with business to get things done again. And frankly, we've got a government in place who has always thought that higher taxes and more spending is the answer to everything. They've never understood enterprise or business, how to grow an economy, and that's what Victoria is going to need to get out of this mess.
Look, I've just got to ask you about the branch stacking allegations in the Liberal Party in Victoria over the last couple of days. I'm advised tonight that the party organisation in Victoria has instituted an independent audit of membership. They say they'll go back 5 years. What would you hope comes out of the audit?
Well, look, my hope, Peter, would be that an independent auditor will run over the names and the details and say and give us a clean bill of health. That's my hope. But look, political parties, they're a bit like garden sheds. They're a bit like teenagers' bedrooms. They need to be tidied up from time to time. Obviously, things got a little bit messy, and now the party is taking strong action to clean things up, because I know my focus is on holding Andrews accountable and providing a better alternative to Victorians. I know Josh Frydenberg, the federal team's focus is on steering this country through this pandemic and providing great economic leadership. So we'll let the party organisation deal with those matters, and we'll focus on our jobs.
Michael O'Brien, Victorian Liberal leader, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Peter.